Hiya. So I am doing an update on my basil that I started in the last video. But I also got really excited about starting seeds after that video, so I started a lot more things, so I'm going to kind of show you guys that too. Okay, so in terms of our basil, we have lots of true leaves showing, which I talked about that last time, how the first leaves that come out are not the true leaves. They have a special name for them. But then usually the second set of leaves are the true leaves that actually look like what the plant's leaves look like. So I'm going to show you those guys. Oh my goodness. So I'll just remind you guys. So this is the sweet Italian basil. This is the Thai basil, and this is another of the sweet Italian. So you can see we did lose a couple of basil in here. And you can see that some of them, like 2 came up in the area, some only 1 came up, some 3 came up. That was probably an accident that I planted 3, but so you can kind of see why we plant multiple at a time. When I transplant these, which I'll do with you guys, I'm just going to separate these guys out and give them their own containers. But these are ready to be up potted into 4-inch pots. So they did really good. They even smell like basil. They look like basil. You can see that they have, a lot of them still have their first set of leaves on. So that's their first set of leaves. And then they have their true leaves that actually look like basil, like we're familiar with. So yeah, I'm really excited about these. This worked really well. I had to make sure to open it up and when it would get like too hot in there, or to make sure everything was getting enough light. But as you can see, everything stayed, the right size, so I could keep this on if I needed to. Okay, you guys. So currently in Bend, we've been experiencing some hail and rain stormage. So I'm going to show you guys how to up pot these basil, but I'm only going to do a couple because I don't want to be out here very long. Yeah, but I'm excited to show you guys. So here's our guys. They look so good. I just am very, very excited about these basil. I have way too many for what I need, but hey, it was really fun, so I don't really care. The first thing you're going to need is some soil, so pull some of those out. Next thing you're going to need is like some small pots. So I have a bunch of 4-inch pots from plants that I have bought in the past that I just keep and I hold on to because I don't like throwing plastic away and they become useful at some point, like today. Many days I'm often just storing a lot of 4-inch pots, like during the winter season, and it's annoying, but when the spring season comes around, it's comes in a lot of handy. So all right, so to start out, I'll show you kind of how to get these little guys out. And this is going to be a fun filming project for me because I'm going to pull them out and film at the same time. So wish me luck. All right, so I'm going to fill this guy with some soil. I like to press down the bottom and then fill up the rest. And now I'm going to gently reach under my seedling, and I don't know how established these root systems have gotten. Let's see. But for the most part, you should be able to get under them and hopefully gently pop them up. So that guy has a pretty good root system. The stem is really strong. It's not all spindly or anything, and it's a good plant. I'm really happy about this guy. I'm going to actually take a little bit of soil out because I forgot a detail of how I like to do it. So I took some out of there, so if you need a better look at the amount. So I like to sit those guys in there, just like that. In there just like that, and I like to hold them, and then I take soil and I just drop it in there to fill and hold it in, and I like to kind of hold the seedling as long as I can so I make sure that it doesn't fall over while I'm trying to plant it. And then I kind of squish it in there until it looks a bit like that. So he's all planted. I could go probably a little bit higher on the soil. You don't want to go too high because you don't want to suffocate the stem too much. But he looks pretty good. So that's kind of what it looks like to repot them. So now I'm going to show you kind of what to do when multiple came out of one spot, kind of like these guys over here. So let's see. Maybe we'll start with this one. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing where I stick my finger under and I try to go all the way to the bottom. I start wiggling my finger, make sure I'm on the bottom, and then I want to just gently start to pop them up without breaking any vital root systems. Alright, so I've got my 3 little basil babies, and now I'm going to try to break them apart. So here they are. You kind of just want to shake out the soil as much as possible. So they're probably going to be all tangled up, so you just want to be gentle, and you can just slowly pull them. Sometimes they'll have a harder time than that, but for the most part, it's just a little pull apart. A lot of times the soil is kind of holding them together too, so that's why you shake it out. So you can see this one's way smaller than this one, and that's because this guy was shadowing him. So this is why it's important that we repot them, because this guy would never have a chance. Alright, so, and then we'll just repot again. So we'll take another one of our 4-inch pots. Put some soil, tamp it down a little bit, a little more. So again, we're kind of at this rate. And actually maybe a little bit less even. So we're kind of right there. I'm going to take one of our big mamas. She's got another beautiful root system. Set her in there right like this. And I'm going to take my soil and I'm going to continue to fill it up.
Contain the urge to run away, but hold her down with soggy clothes and breeze blocks. Shivers in your fevers, greet me again.
Oh my gosh, it is so pretty. How gorgeous. Alright, and so now I'm just going to do that to the last 2.
Do you know where the muffins go? They go along to take your honey. Way down how we build our breakfast down and say my love, love, love. La 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 la, muscle to muscle, to toe to toe. The fear is grip me, but
A couple of important points in this recap is I only chose to uppot my baby basils because they were showing their true leaves. So remember, that first set of leaves is not their true leaf, but the second set is, and that's the one that looks like the actual plant's leaves. And they are only ready to get uppotted once they have those second set. So that's a really great guide to go by. These guys are doing so well, and I'm really excited about them. I just showed you my technique in uppotting when I'm planting, but as you go along, you're definitely going to start to build your own. Things that you like better, things that you think work better. Yeah, and I encourage you to do so. We all have our own techniques and our own relationships with the plants that we're growing. I am going to need to be giving away lots of basil this year. So the next important part or process or step in uppotting anything is watering. You have to water them after. They will just immediately die if you do not. First and most important thing after putting them in new soil is getting them watered. That uppotting can be kind of a fragile process. And this little birdie. Uppotting can be a fragile process, and they will not be able to handle it if you don't water them after. So I have a special squirter waterer, but you can totally just do this with a watering can. No big deal. Also, another thing to start to think about is fertilizing your seedlings. So I have a liquid fertilizer that I use. You just follow the directions on the back as to how much you want to put. It needs to be diluted with water. So when I say diluted, that means mixed with water. And yeah, so I'm going to show you guys that part. Okay, so here are more of my potted basil. I had to start putting 2 in one because I was running out of pots, and also these are bigger pots than these, or these ones are bigger than these ones. So these ones are the Thai basil, but hold on guys, if you think this is a lot of basil, I still have so much more. So this is my handy dandy squirter. When the way that this works is just put a bunch of air in it. It already has some fertilizer in it from earlier. You put a bunch of air in it, and it gets lots of pressure inside from all that air and liquid. That then my squirter nozzle, when I open it up, it just sprays out. So, because it's like, it's really tight in here, there's too many things, there's too much air, too much liquid, I need out. And so the moment I open this up, it'll just spray out. So this is fertilizer and water. So they're gonna get everything they need. And it's important to fertilize because, especially vegetables, usually because they will just do so much better if they have extra food, and usually we're growing them to provide us something, and so we want to make sure that they can be as big and strong as they possibly can be, and you do that by giving them lots of food and water, just like we do to ourselves. Alright, so those guys are all watered and fed. So now I'm just going to put them under the light, and we will see them next time. Okay, you guys, I've got them back in their little seedling home. Usually I have this fan going, but it was really loud for the video. But that just helps, strengthen all of these guys' stems, and also prevents something called damping off, which is when a mold grows on the surface of the soil and kills the plant. So usually I have a fan going, but I turned that one off. So I also wanted to show you the rest of the seedlings that I got started, because I got really excited after the last video when I planted all those basil. So these are all the basil that I didn't up pot. Those are the ones that I did. They go over there too. There's so many. These are some yellow peppers as well. And these are some tomatoes, and these ones are doing really well. I had them in something called a humidity dome, which is really just like this thing of plastic that I put over the top of them. And then it keeps in water in the air, it keeps in heat. So the tomatoes loved that. So they're feeling very strong, very excited. Something that didn't love it that I learned, gardening is always a learning process, so I want to share this with you guys, is my kale. My kale really did not like all of that heat, and they started to get really leggy, which we talked about last time. Legginess is when they have way too long of a stem, like in between the leaf and the base, or in between each other. So you can see all of these are so leggy, and it turns out that legginess can come from a lack of light, but it can also come from excessive heat. So tomatoes are fine with that. They're like, yes, bring on the warm. But kale are kind of more of a cold season vegetable, or green, and they do not like it. And so usually we like to keep the heat up for germination. So that's when the seedling or the seed pops out, and that's when the seed pops out. that's when the sprout comes out of the seed. So there needs to be a couple things for that. So there needs to be moisture and there needs to be heat. So keeping it warm is really great at first, 75, 80 degrees. But once the seedlings come out, they can have lower temperatures and they prefer it. So these guys kind of struggled a little bit. They wanted more like 65 to 70 degrees. Down here, I have some green beans and some cucumbers, and that's mostly it. So, and this is just a geranium. It's a geranium from last year. So, yeah, that's kind of the update on all of my tiny little baby seedlings. Some are doing better than others. For example, look at that green bean. Oh my gosh, so beautiful. But then this green bean is not very happy. It's still alive, but it's not very happy. So some things are successes, some things are not. But yeah, you just kind of gotta problem solve a little bit when you see issues and then figure it out and try to fix them. Also, friendly reminder on what germinating is. Germinating is when a seedling a seed sprouts. So there's certain things that a seed wants in order to sprout, and those main things are water and heat. So when I have the temperatures in my humidity dome at 75 degrees, that's mostly soil temperature, maintaining soil temperature, and so that makes it sprout out. But once it sprout out, it wants a little bit more of aeration and lower temperatures around 65 degrees. So that's why I had to adjust, but I learned something new today, so I'm excited to share it with you guys. I hope you guys are finding great ways to spend your quarantine time. I know this is a hard time for all of us, but there's always things that we can do and learn, and I hope that this helps. Okay, bye guys.
Build a breakfast now, let's eat my love, love. She bruises calls, she splutters pistol shots. Hold her down when soggy clothes and breeze blows. She's more